Alrighty, fellas, we are live.
Well, grab your popcorn. It's Saturday Night Sweat. We are a show dedicated to Circa Survivor, a contest that I believe is the greatest sports betting contest in the world. Tonight, we will have on the show a couple different people who are still alive in Circa Survivor. Among the 49 people still alive, we'll have a couple others, like myself, who were knocked out on Thanksgiving and the Black Friday slate. And around 7:10 p.m., we'll welcome an absolute legend. Chris Moneymaker will come on the show, and we'll talk Circa Survivor with him as well. And of course, as always, we'll react live to the Circa Survivor selection counts that were just released a few minutes ago over on VSiN. But this was a crazy Thanksgiving slate. David, I can't wait to talk about it with you. 13 people go down with the Lions, 78 go down with the Chiefs, 269 go down with the Ravens, 489 go down on the Eagles. That's 95% of remaining entries. All four favorites go down. We're now down to 49 people left. Here to break it down with me is producer Nick and David Baker. David, you and I were both among those to get knocked out. Talk to me about how you're feeling over there, brother.
Yeah, man, sad, obviously, from being out. But a little bit kind of just, I don't know, I kind of actually feel happy for the people who took the dogs, not the ones who were kind of forced into it because they just were kind of reckless with teams. But some of them may have just been calculating the spot to begin with, but just the ones that actually like understood the fact that there's just so much leverage to be had on these short weeks. And they actually just played the game more correctly than I did and you did and some of the others. And also just kind of like, you know, we were talking about, before that everybody wants to say, oh, why will, when you go out early and you're fading like some of these big chalk spots, it's like, well, that was just such an easy spot. But it's like the math is the math. Like at some point you're going to get an upset, and when you can be against it, this one was just like, these were just such great spots. Like taking being against a 30% owned 13.5 point favorite is a lot different than being on the other side of a 55% 7-point favorite. It's just like the leverage that you gain is just so big. And I'm happy for those guys. And obviously we're going to have Mike and Russ on here momentarily. And they got through with one of these dogs. And so, I'm happy for those guys, but obviously disappointed to be out of the contest. But also to be doing, content and shows here. I learned a lot this year for sure. There's definitely some lessons that I've taken away. And there's the man of the hour, the man who got through taking a dog this week.
Mike Buckmiller, welcome to the show. We are excited to talk about you and give you your flowers because you and Russ made a hell of a decision to take the Bears and get through. How are you feeling over there, brother?
Gentlemen, sorry for the delay. We had an event here. I'm actually with Russ right now, but stepped to the side. And yes, obviously, extremely happy to have survived. I mean, that's the name of the game. But at the end of the day, it's a winner-take-all contest. And it wasn't an easy decision, pushing the Bears button. Having the Chiefs on another entry made it a little easier, but once we started seeing the percentages continue to grow, and it's just something that we have in our pocket, in our game theory, that we know anybody can win on any given Sunday. It was obviously an upset, although watching the game, the Bears did a really good job of, controlling the offensive line. And they played very well, but that's not the point. The point is to survive and to be on teams when others are not. And anything could happen, and it did. And it did in 3 other games. I mean, what was it, 1.42% that all the dogs were going to, when is that going to happen? I mean, right. Never, just never. And we were happy to survive the carnage, at least to come out with 1. We debated what would be better, 2 with, I think it was 102 or 99 left, or one with 49. There are some math guys that think we're better with one, but I think we're better with two. If we feel like we're better against the field, I would rather have that option. But we're happy to survive. And I'm going to say something here, and we are not close. I know it's down to 49, and to think that we started with 18,718, and we've been here before, and it seems like you're close, but in a winner take all with no guarantees, we still have to get through 48 more entries. And so very thankful, but we were right back to work. No celebration, no parties. And we were going to work to try to find a spot to land this week. We ended up landing on the 49ers. We felt they were very low owned here. We wanted to avoid the week 15 spot. And part of taking the Bears is also not taking the Eagles and now having the Eagles in our back pocket. And they also play the Raiders that week. They also have a game against the Commanders on week 18. So we'll make that decision, hopefully, if we get there. But it's the twofold thing. By not taking the Eagles, we also keep the Eagles. And we know the others that came along with us also have that play. And so it's kind of a multiplier. And, yeah, super excited. It was stressful watching the game, but that's why we play it.
Mike, you mentioned that it was a little easier to make that bold decision because you had one on the Chiefs. If you only had one entry left, would it have gone Chiefs or Bears?
So obviously, depending on what our team's availability were, but given the two, we'd have probably went the Chiefs, and we've discussed that. Because, they were higher probability to win. And we want to give ourselves the max chance of survival, given one entry left. Now, I know the math will say we're supposed to go Bears. We're supposed to be more, we're supposed to gamble more when we have one. But it's very difficult to do because you come this far, and yes, you do want to survive. But we did discuss that. And all truth be told, I think we would have went the Chiefs, and we were bummed when the Chiefs obviously didn't get through. But, we were happy to have a chip in a chair, and if we could wipe everybody out and still be alive and close to it, yeah, absolutely. Those are discussions that we continuously have. We also ran the permutation, the math on, the Chiefs and the Bears. I think it came out to 61%. We had a chance to survive with one of those teams moving forward. And if we had the chance just to only one move forward, we'd rather have the Bears.
Oh, yeah.
But we would have taken any to get through and live to fight another day.
Mike, as I look ahead to the availability for Christmas, only 4 people have Detroit available. Only 15 people have Kansas City available. Only 28 have Dallas available. I thought it was interesting that nobody has burned all 3 of those teams. With the entry that got through, what are your Christmas options looking like?
Yeah, that's interesting because for a while you would think having the Cowboys in your back pocket would be the play. And now it looks like they may be the chalk. So if you have a Chiefs entry here, the way that the run out played out, man, yeah, if you have the Chiefs, you're looking pretty good here. But we're still going to have to find out if Daniels actually comes back or not, because those equities keep flipping back and forth. Now, of course, the Cowboys look like they got things, going in the right direction. But again, this is a week-to-week league. And so we do have the Commanders available. We have the Cowboys available. We do not have the Chiefs available. We have the Vikings, but the Vikings look like a team that is going in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be interesting, especially we'll see who gets eliminated and what the percentages are in a couple of weeks. But if you have a lack of people having the opportunity to take the Chiefs, we know that almost nobody has the Broncos left. Very few have the Lions, and very few are going to want to take Minnesota. So essentially, you're going to have a large majority of the pool on that Dallas-Washington game. Now, the interesting thing is, if you had a different dynamic of the players left, let's say, for instance, it was all the people who had played chalk, then you know that the high percentage is going to be on whichever team is favored in that spot. But everybody that has left has benefited from taking a dog and leveraging the underdog versus the high pick percentage. So with the people left, let's say we're down to 30 people, and let's just say for ease sake that nobody has the other games available. You might have -3.5 Cowboys, and you may actually have people kind of zigging onto the underdog and making it more be like a even split, because the projections are all going to show that people are going to gravitate towards the favorite, when in reality we're playing with a bunch of people now that understand the value of leveraging ownership. So now you may actually go the opposite way. And so it's kind of like interesting spots, and I'm sure we're going to get into what the numbers were this week, but exactly this happened this week, which is kind of what I thought might happen. Now that we have people who understand the dynamics of being on lower ownership teams, you had some of the teams that were projected higher being owned lower, and some of the teams that were projected lower ended up getting a few more clicks than you would have thought. And it's just going to be like that as it goes on. So we're going to see a spot where after a couple weeks of seeing the picks, where you might actually be able to flip back on to going on what's the chalk play, and it's not as big a chalk as you might think it is.
Yeah, David, and I've always thought that if you got down to this situation, I think that somebody like yourself and your skill set is going to be a lot better with a smaller field like this, because you're actually playing real poker now. I know what you know what I know. We understand equities and all different things, but the gamesmanship as it gets down here is absolutely fascinating. And fortunately, we've been able to do this before. And my partner is obviously, he has a poker background, and it's just an amazing game theory as we get to this, is because it's easier sometimes to play in bigger fields to take the Chicagos, but when you start getting closer to the finish line, it may be more difficult. Now, we do know that people are starting to reveal themselves, so we're starting to get some version and some background to each individual, and then we'll just try to figure out, what are their plays? How have they played? Do they have multiple entries? How does it work out? And so some of that stuff comes to light. Some of it's still dark. We don't know. And as we continue, hopefully, as we continue to get closer and closer to the finish line and the numbers continue to decrease, we gather as much information. We see some of the picks they've made. In a larger field, we're looking at big percentages, and we're taking a paintbrush with these equities, and we're trying to get through. But now we start getting closer and closer. And even though it's 49 left, it seems like we're so close, but we're just not. And it can get so technical, sub 15, sub 12, sub 10, sub 5, and even so. And that's why we were trying to explain, and I've mentioned this before, following the Grandissimo and being able to, even if you're not in that, seeing the game theory and how people are picking and playing will give you some repetitions of what it's like to get down here. Because, David, you've navigated huge fields in poker, but when you get to the final table, it's a whole new game. And based on your chip stack and everything that you're doing, and then all of a sudden the ICM comes involved, you get down to 3 and those type of things. But here in a winner take all, it gets really, really tricky, and I think you'd be amazing. And you'll be down here someday. But
thanks.
That's the
I appreciate it, because there's definitely I'm mad at myself. I didn't have the Bears available, but I think I would have played the Bears if I had them. I wanted to. I thought the Eagles were going to lose, and I'm mad at myself for playing it. I played it safe when I knew that it wasn't the right play, and it's bad. But it's interesting to see, this week, I know you guys took the Niners and you thought that it would be lower owned. And I think if Philly would have gone through, we would have seen the Niners come in at 6, 7, 8%. But because it was all dog people and all people who understood the value of staying off some of the top people, the Niners ended up getting steamed up to the second most. The Niners would never be 15% owned if it was a different group of people that were the 49. It's just the 49 that are left understand that.
Absolutely agree. It was hard with the quick turnaround in the percentages and ownership and those type of things. We were happy to see 42 land there, Happy to see we wanted more on Jacksonville. Happy to see the Miami percentages, but bummed with the Niners. We thought it would be a little less, hoping to be a little less. And those outliers, the ones that we knew had the Seattle and the Rams, and those are great spots to play in. Absolutely should play them. But win or lose with those spots, we're happy that they just continue to burn them, because that'll be less of a card that they can play down the road. So take them when you can, take them because we can't take them. But yeah, bummed about the Niner percentages. And by the way, I don't feel great about the game. I hate the Niners coming off a short week, going East Coast, weather. They've always struggled. That defensive coordinator has something for the Niners, and always has brought that. Hey, if we can get through 17-10, 17-13, we can get through anything. We just need to get through. We have a pretty decent run out moving forward, but listen, we got to survive. We got to get through.
Mike, before we let you go, I want to make sure people know, because you talked about looking at people's tendencies and learning the players that are in the remaining pool. If folks go over to Survivor Atlas, they can actually look up past tendencies of past seasons. You can see how often someone has taken a home team, how often someone has taken a division team. Now, people may be changing their usernames, but if they're using the same username year to year, you can actually look up those past tendencies. And when the pool is this small, that can be a really, really good tool moving forward. But Mike, congratulations again. I know you said you're not celebrating, but you got to be feeling really good right now. Bold move. Congratulations. You deserve where you're at right now, and best of luck moving forward.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to listening to some of the guests that are coming on. Super excited about those. And thank you. Let's get through the Niners, and hopefully we can be looking forward to next week. But yeah, awesome. Great.
Have fun sweating this one out sweating this one out tomorrow, brother. Take care.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, so from one of the 49 people still left in Circa Survivor to another one of the 49 people. I say 49 people. It's actually 49 entries and 40 people. So
yeah, that's right.
2 of the 40 people still alive in the show coming on. Let's go ahead and welcome Brett Ritchie to the show. Welcome back, Brett Ritchie, to the show. He had a great appearance earlier this season. Brett, how are you feeling over there, brother?
I feel good, man. You know, I'm still in this contest. I feel blessed and grateful to still be in. Excited to hopefully keep it rolling.
Absolutely. You're still in because you made a bold decision to take an underdog on the 13A slate. Talk us through that decision. Was it an easy decision, a tough decision?
So I took Green Bay. I was one of only 3 out of 900 that took Green Bay. And the decision actually started the week before. On week 12, I looked very closely at taking Green Bay on one of my entries, which would have put me on double Baltimore for Thanksgiving, which I was fine with. Like, Baltimore to me was a great play. I didn't mind Baltimore, but in taking Green Bay there, I was giving up like 17 cents equity over Baltimore. And I was running some EV calcs then that had Green Bay only like 10 to 15% worse than Baltimore, which ended up being a little too low. But there's also value in a split as opposed to being all in on one team on such a short week. And in any event, so I came into that week with Green Bay as my plan, and then both sides of the KC Dallas game as backups. And then really I threw KC out very early because my entry was super strong coming in. And one of the main reasons for its strength is having KC available. If you look at my week 16 on this entry, it's KC, then at Tennessee, it's Buffalo at Cleveland, and then it's Saints against Jets is my third best team. So burning KC ahead of that game is pushing me onto just Buffalo at Cleveland or just gambling. And then Christmas, I've already used Denver and Detroit. So I was looking at Dallas or Green Bay, and like the Green Bay win percentage was a little higher. The Dallas EV was a little higher. And looking at future value, I felt that since this sort of week 16 Christmas is such a key part to the strength of this entry, it's pretty well protected elsewhere, that like the median outcome of future value favored Dallas, because Green Bay's 2 main spots are double Bears, which is I don't think, especially after Philly, no one's that excited for. And then this potential super hammer week 18 at Minnesota, but it's very high variance. So I ended up landing on Green Bay. I was really between Green Bay and Dallas, but that was just really kind of entry specific. Like Green Bay in a vacuum was not a strong play because there's no leverage there. But for my entry, it made a lot of sense the way I saw it.
And Brett, I saw on Twitter that you're going to be on the Rams this week. Producer Nick, can you go ahead and pull up the numbers? It's funny. This is usually our headline. We usually start the show with these numbers because everybody wants to hear what they are and everybody wants to talk about them. But there was so much that happened on Thanksgiving. We had to lead the show with that. 21 people on the Chargers, 7 on the Dolphins, 7 including Mike are on the 49ers, 5 on the Jaguars, 4 on the Rams, 4 on Seattle, and 1 on the Patriots. Brett, in about 2 minutes or less, if you can, walk us through this Rams decision and how you ended up here and what's your confidence level going into this week.
I mean, my confidence level is the line is the line. 84% of the time, I'm going to advance, and 16%, it's going to be a sad day, but it's all good either way, man. As I said, I'm grateful to have made it this far. I'm not horribly surprised because the field just went from pretty soft to really sharp, I would say, based on this Thanksgiving result. And it's all contrarian players left for the most part. Like San Francisco, I saw people speculate they might be an island. Like you might be the only one on San Francisco. But 7 people felt that way. And so for me, my entry is one of the strongest left, which is it's not worth anything now. It could be, but it's nice. So I felt like I did not need to go try and improve its strength even further. Like I'm already in a good position. Let's start cashing in on some of these strong teams that I've saved. And I covered this on my stream earlier this week. McVay, he likes resting guys, and they might just have this 1 seed locked up. So I liked, and Carolina scares people at Carolina. I mean, I'm scared. Like my ball knowledge is like this line seems kind of high. Carolina, they've been a dangerous team. They clipped 8 of my entries week 2 or 3. They clipped all those Packers people. They clipped the Falcons people. They clipped whoever took them against Saints. So it's a little scary versus some of these other like Seahawks. I think felt a little safer, but I decided to go with Rams here. But I was really between those 2 teams. Maybe Dolphins or Jags if I felt like I needed to improve my entry strength, but I felt comfortable enough to use one of these.
So I was looking at these numbers, and I'm not surprised that the Niners got steamed up based on exactly what Brett said. And I had mentioned it earlier. We're going to have a completely different dynamic of the percentages are going to be completely different now than they would have been if it was a different 49 people in, or if it would have been 500 people like the Eagles had won. But the one thing that does surprise me is I'm really surprised that people didn't cash in their Seattle and Rams tickets. I really thought that this was a really good spot to do it. Obviously, you have, if you're not cashing in those tickets, you're basically choosing between a super chalk Chargers team, or you're choosing between a 6-point favorite Dolphins team, which also gets to play the Jets in another situation. And you're also, or choosing between the Jags, who this is only their 3rd best spot that they have available. So I really felt like this was just a dream to get 12-point favorite Seattle or 10-point favorite Rams. And the Rams had 24% availability, and only to have 8% on, I thought was pretty surprising. And Seahawks were similar. I think they were like 18% available, only to have 8%. I really thought those would be tick closer to, maybe 7 entries each, like 14%. So I was a little surprised at that. Everything else kind of was what I thought. I thought that the big projections sites had the Jags way too high. I think 10%, that was more in line with what my thinking was. But yeah, I think congrats to you to be able to be on an island here with the Rams. Because like you say, week 17 is really the only spot for them, and we don't necessarily know.
Week 18 could be great. They're home against Arizona. They might be battling for the 1 seed. It's to me, that's high variance. And
but 18 is such an easy spot to monetize yourself. So it's not necessarily, you can choose other spots that are even island spots or close to island spots. And being that we're down to 49, and being the fact that you have Kansas City available on Christmas, if you choose to do that, we already know half the field's probably going to get eliminated on that Dallas Washington game because they're going to be split. So you're kind of looking at, a really easy spot to monetize week 18. So having the nut spot is not nearly as valuable, I don't think.
True, but you still could get maybe a plus 500 or plus 300 instead of plus 250. The Rams are also viable next week. If you look ahead on DraftKings, they're minus 8.5 at Arizona. Okay. So they had 4 spots, and then week 17 at Atlanta is another spot where I
guess also they could be looking to save them and then leverage that big Tampa Bay New Orleans spot that people have next week, looking to not leverage it, but just fade it.
Yeah. Brett, for what it's worth, I love your spot this week, man. The Panthers have a lot of injuries. They got that guy suspended as well. So I'm excited for you this weekend. I'm a little more nervous for Mike. I wouldn't say that if he was on the screen, but worried about that Browns matchup for Mike. At this point, I want to invite you, Brett, to stick around. We're going to bring Chris Moneymaker on in a minute. So we're going to swap Nick out for Chris, and then you're welcome to join the conversation. So want to go ahead and welcome 2003 World Series of Poker main event champion and Poker Hall of Famer. He's an absolute legend. And I just found out a couple weeks ago he was in Circa Survivor. I had no idea. Chris, thanks for joining the show. How are you doing, brother?
Doing all right. I'm surprised you got David Baker up in here with Auburn playing right now. I guess it's got to be on the background.
The TV's right there, but I'm part of the show. I do it every week. So I couldn't let down the people who who give me the opportunity to talk Survivor every week by canceling just for some football game of a 5 and 6 team. So
that's true. Yeah, it's not that big. It's not that big of a game. So
don't worry. My eyes are on it.
Yeah, I'm watching it too. But anyways, I was in the Circa. A lot of fun. And me and a buddy, we went in together this year to try and do it. And so we had 20 picks, and I lost all under my name on the Arizona-Tennessee debacle. And then
week 5.
Yep. We had 4 picks going into this weekend. We were Puri Bruce, and we took we had 1 Baltimore and 3 Eagles. I regretted, obviously, by the time we got to the Eagle game, not taking before the Eagle game even started. Yeah. I would love to have had a Chicago pick in there, and I almost did 1 Chicago, but I think I had used most of my Chicagos already, anyways.
So if people are just joining us, there's 3 people on this screen who lost on Thanksgiving, and then Brett in the lower right corner who got through on Thanksgiving. We're talking Circa Survivor. Chris, I wanted to ask you a question about the growth of this contest, Circa Survivor, because your win in 2003 in the World Series of Poker is really credited for helping poker explode in the way it did, even coining the phrase the moneymaker effect. So as someone that had not just a front row seat, but you saw this happen all around you, are there any parallels that you see between that boom that happened in the poker industry to what you're seeing now with Survivor pools and with Circa Survivor?
Well, the biggest thing is the prize pool and is the chance for life-changing money. I mean, when you start talking about $18 million, $15 million, whatever it is, like last year was the first year that I took notice. It definitely raises your eyebrow. And if it wasn't for the proxy having to go out and get that done, I think it would be even bigger. If we ever get around that hurdle, then, the prize pool on this thing would be incredibly massive. But having to fly out to Vegas to get a proxy it's a little bit of a hurdle. Not bad for some of us, but for a lot of players, a lot of people, that would be a kind of barrier of entry.
I mean, Circa's got books. What's up, Chris? They got books around the country at least. So like maybe they start opening up satellite stations for people to, like, you can go to Illinois or whatever states they're in and maybe register at some of the other Circa locations.
Yeah, that might be a new thing in the future for sure. I mean, I don't think that was an option this year. I think you had to be. You had to be in Vegas. So, if that becomes a thing where I could go to Kentucky, Illinois, whatever, then I think you could definitely see a Survivor boom. I mean, I'll be honest. This is the first year on social media where I've seen so much buzz on the Survivor. Even last year when we did it, I didn't see as much buzz. Honestly, the only kind of buzz I saw was when they got down close and Perry didn't chop.
Mm.
I mean, that's kind of the only thing that I really paid attention to a little bit. But
So
Gotcha.
now that you're kind of hooked, do you anticipate next year either getting more, maybe building a bigger portfolio of entries, either with your one partner or maybe bringing in more partners? And also, do you foresee yourself maybe being a part or either even headlining an entry in the 100K Grandissimo?
I've it's funny, we were talking about this after busting. We were all kind of upset. Well, me and my buddy, and then I have another friend, but we were talking about doing the big one next year, and then maybe doing 50 picks and Survivor, getting 5 people and going out and doing Survivor next year. The fact that you can have such variety and get down deep, and then the picks. I mean, heck, we could have sold a couple picks if we wanted to, and made some of our we could have broke even by selling one pick by the time we got down to Thanksgiving. We weren't going to do that, but I mean, it was definitely a possibility. But the one thing I did learn is, I knew the plus EV plays this weekend. I was focused too much on surviving instead of playing the EV. If you're going to win this thing, or if you're going to make a deep run, you have to be willing to die. And it's kind of like a poker tournament. You just got to, go for it. And sometimes you have to make the best EV play, and hopefully it pans out.
Yeah, it's crazy, Chris. You and I are both, poker players, and we do things that we know are, potential going to end our tournament and end our hopes at millions of dollars. All the time we make those decisions on the fly. And you and I both were presented with opportunities this week to put ourselves in better positions to make the real money. There's a lot of times where pre-bubble or anything like that, that we have opportunities in a poker tournament. And I hope and I think that, we've both been good enough in our careers that we've taken plenty of those opportunities. Some of them have worked and some of them haven't. But, we both kind of folded in the opportunity that was presented to us, and, Brett didn't. And, I think that's the most disappointing thing to me, is not that I lost. It's that I knew the right play and I didn't make it. And that part to me is the more frustrating part. And if I would have gone out with, another team, then I should have been a lot more fine with it, but I was too afraid of listening to people go, oh my gosh, you passed on a 7-point favorite. Like, why are you trying to be cute? There's still 8 weeks left in this thing, and, worried about that part of it. And also having the partners and the things like that, you don't want to disappoint. And so, I don't know. It sounds like you kind of feel similar to me about that being the bigger regret than actually losing.
I don't know if I'm getting stuck or is everybody else.
Oh, you're good, man. We see you. You're good. We're good. We hear you loud and clear, Chris.
Now he might have frozen.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
That's better.
Yep. I think I froze for a minute.
You're good.
Did I freeze or did?
Yeah,
think
You
you
froze for a second, but you're fine. It's all good.
I
Chris,
froze. Well, now I can only see you, and they're both frozen.
Gotcha.
So that's weird.
I can hear you loud and clear. Chris, I'm curious, how big of an NFL fan are you? Are you someone that's sweating out every play of all these games, or are you more checking the scores on your phone after the fact?
Oh no, I play fantasy every week. Now I don't play daily fantasy, but I play season long. So I'm constantly, I play in some really big leagues. Last year we had a 1 Bitcoin buy-in league. It was crazy. We stopped doing that when Bitcoin went up as much as it did, but I still play in some pretty big leagues. And to David's point, I give myself a little bit of slack because I've been playing poker for a very long time, so I'm used to taking those plays that might be on edge. But again, this is my second year in Survivor. I just got to learn from it. I knew the correct play, but I just didn't have faith in myself, I guess, to do it this early. I was actually planning on trying to get to Christmas and making these underdog picks. I thought it was too early with 800 people left, but obviously it turns out it wasn't. But I'll learn for next year, hopefully, and make better. I promise you, next year, if I make it this far, I will have some underdogs.
Nice. You mentioned that Bitcoin league. Is that the league with Mike and Russ?
Yep, yep. Kerry runs the league, and yeah, Mike and Russ are in it, and yeah, we don't do for Bitcoin anymore. Bitcoin got it got to be where it's a little bit too much to be playing
Fair.
for. I know one Bitcoin's only one Bitcoin, but it's not.
Chris, I know you said you've been in Survivor the last couple years. Can you just talk to us about what the sweat has been like? I mean, you've been in some sweats at the poker table. I'm sure enjoy other forms of gambling. This is new to you the last couple years. What's it been like? Just kind of summarize the experience for us.
Honestly, it's been great because me and my best friend, we talk a lot, but like literally every day we've been talking about Circus Survivor the last like 3 weeks. Like who are we going to take next week? And no, I'm not taking the damn. We took the Saints one week, we took the Raiders one week, and my friend's like, "You're an idiot." I'm like, "Man, we got to make you. You got to take uncomfortable choices." And we fought back and forth, and even this week, we're fighting. I wanted to take. I was thinking about taking one favorite, like 1-1-1. And then I tried to, tell them we should probably take if we're going to take an underdog, the Eagles is the best pick. I mean, they're going to be the highest, you know, counter owned or, by everybody else. And my buddy didn't want to hear anything about that. He's more about survival than I am, even more so. But he's a poker player too. So he's going to have to learn next year that we're just going to have to take chances. So, but it was fun because we talked literally every, when the lines came out, when, looking at next week's games, we plan, had the season planned out. We had a lot of good teams left, which is really disappointing. I mean, we still had the majority of good teams. Like I said, we'd used the Browns, we'd used the Raiders and Saints. And so, yeah, it was kind of disappointing that, we ended when we did, but it's just obviously.
I mean, honestly, I think Philly is a better play when you have an entry like that because you're preserving a super strong entry with high win percent. Like if you have a medium or like poor entry, Philly's horrible. You need to gamble to try and flip the field. But in your spot, I think that's the only time it makes sense to use Philly from my perspective.
Yeah, I felt like we had a strong enough thing that we could, look. I was going to use Miami this week and save the Rams for later. And we had Tampa Bay, but, that looked a lot worse now with Baker Mayfield being injured. So
that was back, though. He's back. They're 8.5 next week in the look-ahead lines. So.
Oh, that sucks. See, I don't want to hear this stuff. I want the Chargers and the Dolphins to lose now. I want everybody
so do I.
Yeah. Okay. Who are you on this week?
Rams.
Okay. Yep. That nice. I had this weekend I had 3 Chargers and I was going to go one Ram, but I decided to say I was going to save them and do Miami. But,
Chris, I have a question for you. I see some debates, and David and Brett, you guys have great brains for this question as well, so feel free to jump in. But I've seen some debates on Twitter about how good the EV is on a $1,000 Circus Survivor entry. I've heard some arguments that when you take into account the no picks and some other things, it's actually really good EV. Can you got a lot of ways that you can invest $1,000 as a gambler. Can you talk to me about the value of a Circus Survivor entry in your eyes?
Well, for me personally, I look at it as just almost like a tournament buy, and I'm throwing the money away because I'm not looking to, have the missed picks and having $1,500 in equity when I put in $1,000. This is my form of entertainment. It's a lot cheaper for me to play $10,000 worth of circuit picks versus me to bet on sports. Me betting on sports is going to cost me a lot more money. I got as much fun and as much enjoyment out of these survivors and anti-sweating everybody else and playing my teams than I would have been betting the entire year. So it's more about. I look at it as entertainment, and I look at it as a loss leader going in that I know I'm going to have fun with, and if I somehow bank, then that's what it's worth to me. But all the no picks and everything is kind of crazy to me. But I don't look at it in the form of I'm getting an extra $500 in equity because people aren't going to pick right, or they're not going to they're not going to go EV. They're going to go just survival only. Maybe I should look at it that way, but it's just all about entertainment for me.
I look at it very similar to Chris. To me, it's a plus EV lottery ticket. There's no VIG. It's a soft, like there's a lot of sort of weak players that all kind of play the same way. So I'm making money by playing the contest, but the variance is so insane. you can't count on it. Yes, there's ways to monetize through the Survivor Sweat marketplace, through selling action. Like I did what Chris did. I have 20 entries with the friend who has a piece. A couple other guys have a piece. Just get some friends involved. And then, at this stage of the game, you can swap or hedge also. But for the most part, it's a lot. You're very rarely going to realize your equity in this sort of event. And so that's one of the reasons I started streaming this year, is like, I'm already it's a time commitment. I really enjoy it. And why not start streaming and look for other ways to sort of benefit from the work that I'm putting into Survivor? Because even now, with 49 people left, like the light at the end of the tunnel, I've got a great entry. Most of the time, 80% of the time or so, I'm still walking away with empty pockets. So I'm grateful to have made it this far, but to me, it's entertainment, man, and a Plus EV lottery ticket.
David, did
Yeah,
you want to jump in on that question?
obviously, I think it's Plus EV just from all the other ancillary stuff, but we're also it's so hard to actually benefit from it or monetize it. It's basically like when the Pygow jackpot got up to 6 million here in Vegas. It's like it's Plus EV. Every time you play, you might be gaining like 12 cents or 15 cents or $3. I don't even know what the number was. But it's so impossible to ever monetize it that it's like, if it's your case money, then it's a terrible investment. Like, even though you might even be 50%, you might be worth 1.5 or something. It's still a terrible, way to put case money. But, if it's just disposable income, then, yeah, I mean, obviously we all look at it as a lottery ticket. I mean, none of us actually think we're going to win. And if you do, you're kind of delusional because you don't. I mean, like winning the World Series of Poker, it's impossible. Nobody ever wins that thing.
I thought I was going to win Circa going into this weekend, so I'm pretty delusional.
Well, you took the Eagles, so you were never going to win this week. Brett had a shot. They could have just all tied. He could have had Green Bay and 3 ties.
That would have been insane. Me and 2 other guys.
Imagine that. Chris, I have a question for you, and David, feel free to jump in here as well. So I think the average player that isn't in the poker community hears there's a bunch of people in the poker community that are coming into Circa Survivor. And I don't think, as someone myself who's not in the poker community, I don't have a sense of how invested the poker community is in Circa Survivor. I know it's a thing and I know it's growing. So Chris, if you have 100 friends who play poker, what percentage of those are the people that you talk to, that you play poker with, are in Circa Survivor, roughly?
Out of 100, I'd say probably 80. I mean,
wow.
Even a person like, Galen Hall, he put out a tweet earlier this week that he has 4 of the picks left of the 49, and he's a poker player. Like, there's so many poker players in this thing, and they don't have to be professional poker players. They play poker on the side or recreationally. But yeah, I mean, I think, poker playing lends itself very well to this format, especially if you're a tournament poker player, because you understand the risks, you understand that you're really going in, and it is at the end of the day, it's a Plus EV decision, but you're just playing. It's a you enter a poker tournament, unless you're really good like David. I mean, you're going to be a dog most times, but you're buying a lottery ticket, and oh my God, Auburn just threw an interception.
Oh yeah, that was my disgusted face right there.
Yeah. I saw the pain on his face, and I must be a little bit behind you.
Yeah. Well, ricochet right off the other dude.
David, would you back that number up? Does 80% seem about right to you, just based on your inner circle?
There's definitely a lot, and the thing is, not only are there a lot of them, but they're entering, they're max entering, and they're entering with friends and things like that. So I think it's making up a bigger pool, and I think it's partly just because it obviously, we are all like not risk averse. I mean, we're all putting in lottery tickets every day. I mean, every poker tournament's a lottery ticket, basically. I mean, you never sit down, no matter how good you are, no matter how weak the field is, you never sit down and are a favorite to get anything out of that except, loss. But I think also just the fact that a lot of the poker players have been very active on social, and it's kind of just bringing to light this contest and people like Brett and myself and a lot of other poker players that have reach and, start, and David Williams, all the great guests that we've had on this show throughout the year, the fact that we're constantly talking about it at the table, on social media, all these things, it's, even if you didn't know about it, it's almost impossible now to get away from it if you're in the poker world. So it's basically like people come up to me all the time and it's like, well, how do I get in the Survivor thing? Or can I buy a piece of you? Or how do I do it? And now, my involvement with Survivor Sweat has obviously taken off to be able to help bring people more into it. And I love it. I mean, I love the contest. I love poker. So me being able to share something that I love with people that I like and respect, like it's fun for me. And obviously the contest grows, and I'd be shocked if we didn't hit 25 million next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be honest. It does help. It does help the fact that all the poker players are in Vegas during the summer, so it's easier to get proxy. That's when when during the World Main Event, that's when we went out and did it. So
For sure.
it does help for poker players since we're out in Vegas, anyways.
Chris, real quick before we let you go, I need a prediction from you. I know this is an impossible question to answer today. What's your best guess on the prize pool for Circa Survivor next year?
Let's see. We did 18 million this year, so I mean, I could see 23 million.
23 million. Can you imagine? That would be fantastic. Good stuff.
I mean, I don't know. I guess a little bit depends on Bitcoin, on the economy and whatnot. But yeah, I think 23.
Well, I see Brett putting his finger up. I think Brett is saying he'll take the over on that bet.
I think it'll be like 35 million.
Whoa.
Yeah,
what?
we'll see. I mean, so this year, if you look at Survivor Sweat, all these even bad entries were selling 2x par. Like there were the secondary, and gamblers see this. So I think there's going to be at least a wave of people looking to just flip sort of coming in, which also makes the contest more appealing to people like me because they're going to be more chalk players, right? They're not trying to take any chances. They just want to make it a few weeks so they can flip their entry at a premium. First off, I don't think the premium will be nearly as good as it was this year for selling entries because I looked a few times to go try and buy equity in another entry. And it was like I was never close to pulling the trigger. But so I think that is I think there's going to be a bigger wave of sort of groups coming in and especially looking to just survive a bit and flip. We'll see.
Wow. Over 30. Could you imagine?
35.
A buddy did sell his for 4,000 when the value was 2,000, which I felt like
that happened all year until now. Yeah. Now, obviously, people aren't going to pay, except for maybe the super strong ones, but they're not going to pay $750 for these. But
absolutely,
they were going for double a lot.
Yeah, and that's actually a great transition into our next guest. We've got James coming on. We're going to talk about the marketplace. So, Chris and Brett, thank you both so much for your time. You guys are legends. Brett, best of luck to you moving forward. Chris, thank you very much again, guys. Appreciate you both.
All right. Peace, fellas.
Thank you, guys.
Take care, gentlemen. All right, so David and I are going to welcome James to the show. James has taken a couple weeks off. Nick has been admirably filling in for James with the marketplace updates. James, it's
I leave for 2 weeks and I come back to this. What happened?
Seriously, you come back and there's only 49 people left. James, welcome back. What can you tell us about the marketplace? I got to be honest, I haven't looked at it in the last week or so. I usually do a really good job of keeping a close eye on it. So I'm as interested as anybody here to hear what the marketplace looks like right now.
Yeah, well, first it was a quiet week headed up to Thanksgiving, mainly because I think everyone was just like, okay, it's a double week. Like there was no pick control that was sold prior to Thanksgiving this week, which was the first time all season where no one had sold pick control. And I think that's obviously, it was a double week. People didn't want to buy and then have to make 2 picks this week. Yeah. And then, listen, who saw all 4 underdogs coming? Today, the marketplace opened after the game last night. There's a handful of sales. I can say one of the final 49 entries has already sold pick control.
Wow.
So one of the final 49 has already, said, hey, listen, this is the price of poker. I'll cash out. So
can you tell if it was sold at a premium or at a discount or you don't have to say the amount?
We had talked earlier in the season about how there comes a point where it flips. And now this year's clearly different because it was just such a drastic, change. But this is the point where it flips. So now when it gets down to where there's this few of entries left, the price point is just simply so high. The number of potential buyers that are willing to pay six figures for an entry that could be worth something, it could be worth zero. It just changes. So they sell at a discount at this point. Even the minority shares. So we sold a handful of minority shares this morning. Those are selling at a discount as well. Those sold this morning. There's a handful of sales for around $3,000 a point. Obviously, the expected or implied value is 3,800. So they are selling a little bit at a discount right now in the marketplace.
Gotcha. And do you know where the Survivor Revival is at? Because I just saw when Nick pulled that up on the screen that it looks like there's a piece of a Survivor Revival entry. People might be surprised to hear that. It's not just Circa Survivor entries up there. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there's contests that we run on the platform. That's a contest we run on the platform, Survivor Revival. It started about 5 weeks ago. There's also another contest that just ended. It was called Mini Survivor. And those are $100 buy-in Survivor contests that you can sign up for on our platform. You don't have to play in Circa. You could just sign up and join those contests. But the Survivor Revival, if you go to the contest lobby page, the prize pool on that one is I think over 90,000 for the prize pool on that one, and they're down to 17 left. Yeah, 17 left in that one. So,
wow, phenomenal.
And that's after 5 weeks. And there was close to 1,000 entries after 5 weeks. It's down to 17.
Incredible. Can you talk to us about just based on like what do you predict for the marketplace between now and the end of the season? Because you have a couple seasons under your belt now. Is there a point where like it gets down to like 20 and there's just no action? Or do you expect up until the very end for there to be sales?
There definitely be sales. It's the vast majority of them are minority shares at this point. People will be selling, 1%, 2%, maybe 5 and 10. But there's also, in addition to, the sales that happen in the marketplace, there's also the swaps that happen. So of the remaining 49 entries, you can swap shares between the players. In fact, we did a swap agreement today between two of the entries. So yeah, you'll see those are all happen off market. So that's not anything that's like posted on the site. That's all happens off market. But yeah, you'll see shares that are sold up until the end. Last year, we sold shares on up until the Sunday morning of week 18. There was a share that sold Sunday morning, week 18, and that actually it was one of the winning entries. So they ended up buying that morning, and they were part of the winning entry. So
incredible. So as you said, it's not on your website if someone wants to do a swap. So correct me if I'm wrong. People can get in touch with you at james@survivorsweat.com if they are interested in something like that now.
Yeah. And what listen, the last 49 entries, like you can go on there, you should at a minimum just register an account, load your entry in your profile just to track it. What happens is we've got, of the final 49, the vast majority of them are already logged onto the site. But what will happen is basically we'll reach out. One of the entries will reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in doing a swap. Is there someone that would be interested? And then we'll, send out a message to those that are in the system. And then that's kind of how they happen. If you're not in our system, then, you're kind of not involved in those discussions. So that's why I encourage any of the remaining entries, go ahead, just create an account. Even if you're not interested in selling, shares, just create an account, load your entry in there. But that's kind of how the swaps happen.
Good stuff. Let me ask you a question, because we're dealing with some of these. Some people are trying to monetize big dollar amounts. Even if it's not pick control, 10% is 30,000 or something like that. What are the ways that they can arrange payment? And obviously, it's a little tougher with this week to actually take care of that because we're dealing with the holidays and a one-day turnaround and all that stuff. But obviously, I anticipate after this week, we might be down to 32 or 28 or whatever. It's going to be probably, we're going to be looking at 5,000 or 4,000 a point. Is there easier way for people to go ahead and fund the account, or do you take crypto, or what are the options that people have available to them?
So they can deposit on the site through PayPal, Venmo, credit card are the options on the site. We will accept crypto. Those transactions have to be handled separately. So, if they reach out and they want to do a deposit via crypto, we will take crypto as well. They'll send that, and then we'll just manually adjust their account and load it into their account. So we try to be as flexible as possible. And then as far as like payouts, I mean, like I said, this guy sold Pick Control yesterday for 6 figures. Banks are closed. So we have to, we'll pay them out any way we can. Whether it's, PayPal, Wire, are the 2 most popular, especially when we get into 6 figures. But I'm a lawyer here in Nevada with escrow accounts and whatnot. The funds are in escrow. Anytime we do a deal and a transaction, there's clearly a contract involved, escrow accounts involved. The funds are safe, set aside, secure. Even if you sell your entry, on a Friday or Saturday, you don't get paid out till Monday. So,
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned being a lawyer and the legal part of it, because I think there are some people that might have some ideas of just finding someone else who says that they're in the contest and making sort of a handshake agreement with them. And that carries a lot of risk because they could be a scam artist. We got to make sure they're in the contest, first of all. And then even if they're in the contest, that doesn't mean they're honest and they're trustworthy. So I think that's really where the value of what you guys do comes in.
Yeah. Listen, I will say, and I saw a message on Twitter last week. Someone had done a transaction on their own between 2 entries or whatever, and then messaged Jeffrey Benson on Twitter and said, "Hey, Jeff, I bought this entry and can you transfer it to my name?" As if Jeff's like, that's not how this works, you can't. So there's people that are doing these deals on the side. Scary. And there's whether, I don't even know if they had a contract or didn't have a contract, but I mean, at the end of the day, we're playing for $18 million. This is, if there's ever a time where you want as buttoned up of a transaction as necessary, this is the time where you have to have attorneys involved. You have the contracts involved. Yep. This is our 3rd year doing this. We've been through the process. We know the process from A to Z, how to protect all the parties, make sure everyone gets paid out, all that stuff, the tax implications, all that stuff. But when I see these people on Twitter messaging, and I will say as well, I've seen 2 instances where, another party was doing deals and they had messed up the contract. One of the parties that sent me the contract and not done correctly. And so I mean, listen, I say buyer beware, but you got to make sure that the person that's handling the transaction has experience, knows what they're doing, knows the process, because there's a lot of ins and outs to this. At the end, when you're going to collect, if it's 18 million or a portion of 18 million, you always want to make sure you're going to get paid out.
Yep. Good stuff.
I mean, there's a reason why Survivor Sweat started and has built itself and grown to the popularity and the trusted leader in the industry. And it's because it started with an idea, and they did all the legwork up front to make sure that all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed. And now they've had, I don't know, this is the 3rd year, I think, or 2nd year of being able to the 3rd year. So being able to have gone through the pitfalls and understood exactly everything that needed to be involved from both the buyer and the seller. And, if you're trying to, nickel and dime pennies on something so big, you end up, it might, the juice might not be worth the squeeze. You're trying to save hundreds and you're risking tens and hundreds of thousands. It's not really worth it. There's a reason why these guys do what they do and why they're so good at it. So I mean, I would definitely say if you're looking to monetize, then obviously this is the platform and the space to do it.
Yeah, and last year, I mean, there was so many shares that were purchased through the marketplace. I think I said this before. There's over 2.3 million from the prize pool that was purchased through Survivor Sweat last year. And there was the Vodka Johnny entry has the record for the most owners of a single entry. I think there was 25 different owners of that entry ended up cashing out at the end because it was sold early and they were selling multiple shares, and there was 25 different people that collected from that entry last year.
Oh, Jeff Benson must have loved that one. Parsing that out 25 different ways. My goodness.
Oh, it was multiple forms. That's
why me, Mike, and Russ always say Vodka Johnny, the exclusive Survivor Sweat partner every week on the podcast.
It's a great entry.
Well, James, thanks so much for your time. And anybody that is curious about the Survivor Sweat marketplace, I know producer Nick has included that in the YouTube description, the website that you can go to check it out. Even
it's in the X chat too. Sorry, Tom.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Yeah, and even if you're not interested in buying or selling today, I do encourage people to just check it out, get comfortable with it, because one day in the future, next year, et cetera, you may be interested in a transaction. So please do that.
Yeah, and one thing I will say as well, sorry, just last point, the 2 no picks last week. I'm sure you've heard the story of the one gentleman who he didn't know that you had to play a game on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So he sent an email to Jeffrey Benson on Friday and, was what's going on here? I didn't know the rules, you guys, and obviously everyone that signs up is handed a copy of the rules and whatnot. And he said he wasn't on Twitter and whatnot. We've mentioned this before as well. Like, that's the reason why you have a proxy. Like, you have a proxy, like that never, ever, ever happens. But it was shocking to see the 2 no picks. And I tell you people all the time, there's people signing up for this contest. They're playing for 18 million, and some people don't know the rules that they're double beats, things like that.
I'll tell you a good story about that, James. I have, this World Series. I was around the World Series of Poker, and I got a lot of people to come and sign up. And I had one of my friends that I had sign up, and he texted me today at 2:00, and he said, "Shit, I missed the entry for the Circa Millions. Is there any way that I can do that? I can still get it in?" And then he texted me like 5 minutes later. He said, "Oh, I just contacted. They went ahead and they put picks in for me." And you guys saved him getting zeros and not having. So, it's having the proxy and having that availability. Make sure that you never sleep a pick. It's I don't know how the other proxies do, but I know that at Survivor Sweat Proxy, they make sure that you never sleep a pick. And you can also put in your picks like day one, the day that the lines are released. You can go ahead and you can lock in your picks and go back and make changes in their proxy. So that's a benefit as well. So you can always just lock up your picks, Wednesday morning when the lines come out, and then go back and change it before it's actually submitted. So all those things are, good commercials for your proxy service.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna go ahead and sign us off with James and David here. But before we do, you guys might be interested in this as well. I have pulled up in front of me from Survivor Atlas the selections for the folks that had multiple entries. I think this is very interesting. Corsi, the only person with 4 entries left, he went San Francisco, Miami, Jacksonville, Chargers. Heater City, 3 entries left, Rams, Chargers, and there's 4 people with 2 entries left. Seattle, Jacksonville on 1, Miami, San Francisco, Chargers, Seattle, and then another one went Miami, Chargers. So none of the people with multiple entries are all in. The only people who are all in on the same team are the people with 1 entry left. So I thought it was really interesting.
I think that just shows the value of the picks right now. And you're looking at, one of those picks, when 3 Chicago and 2 Bengals. So, now that, when it's worth 20,000 each or 5,000 each, like, condensing all your things to get to this. But the whole reason why you condense your picks early is to be able to diversify when the money actually matters. And now that they're all worth 400,000 each, nobody wants to put $1 million on one spot. So now they can essentially, hedge their entries by, having multiple paths to success. So I think that's just kind of the product of where we are. And also the value of not just trying to get 1 entry through. I've always been a firm believer in kind of condensing my picks and trying to get a bunch of entries to a certain point. And that's the value of having multiple picks right now, is that you aren't confined to just one spot.
Yeah, we've been talking about poker this whole show. It's like a poker tournament and having more chips than anybody else at the table. When you're the only person with 4 entries, it's essentially a similar phenomenon going on. So thank you guys, all 3 of you. Thank you guys very much for the time. We'll be back next week. Looking forward to the show. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. Take care, everybody. Best of luck.
Good luck, guys.